All right, UFC Fight Night Royval versus Kape, full card predictions. It's pretty shitty cards. I'm going to try to go through it quick. By the way, I record all these in my car, and right now it's really windy out, so if you hear wind or something hitting my car, that's what that is. But yeah, first fight of the card, we've got Tereza. Oh, there's a couple late notice fights. I'm pretty up to date. I'm recording this at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So if anybody else falls out or anybody else gets replaced or something, I'm not going to be clairvoyant to know that. But yeah, first fight of the card, we got Tereza Bledá versus Jamey-Lyn Horth. I'm kind of 50-50 on this fight, just because Tereza Bledá is a pretty decent, or was a pretty decent prospect. Her only loss is to Natalia Silva, who's, the #1 contender right now. But she hasn't fought in like 2.5 years. I don't think she was ever great, which makes me a little worried, because sometimes fighters take a lot of time off and come back worse, and sometimes they take a lot of time off and come back better. Like Mizuki Inoue a couple weeks ago, similar situation. She was like a not very good fighter. I think she was a significantly worse prospect than Tereza Bledá. She took 3 years off and then came back and beat Jacqueline Amorim as like a plus 500 underdog. But yeah, Jamey-Lyn Horth, I always thought she was like decent. She arguably beat Veronica Hardy. She only other losses to Marina Maverick, who's pretty solid, but she didn't really have any good wins. And honestly, I don't love the close competitive fights with Veronica Macedo and Ivana Petrovic. I don't know if Veronica Hardy's really even that good, especially for Jamey-Lyn Horth, who tries to wrestle her opponents. Veronica Hardy's really small. Should be pretty easy to out wrestle. So I don't like that she didn't even get that win. And then Vanessa Demopoulos is pretty dog shit. Most of her wins are robberies. So I'm gonna go with Tereza Bledá. I just think that if she's improved at all, and honestly, it's not like a couple women's fighters will take 3 years off, and you're like, where have they been? And you look at their Instagram, and they were pregnant, or they were, raising a kid or something. And Tereza Bledá was trying to get fights in the interim, and she's also pretty young, so I can't imagine she's gotten worse. I gotta imagine she's probably improving, based on the fact that she's been trying to fight the whole time. She's only 24. She hasn't fought since she was 21. So yeah, I'm gonna imagine she's probably the better fighter. I'm gonna go with her. Next up the card, we've got Frye versus Guilherme Pat. I'm going with Guilherme Pat. He's a much better prospect in my opinion. I don't think Frye is that bad, but I also don't think he's that good, and he's the smaller fighter. And Guilherme Pat is like the rare, decent-looking heavyweight prospect. So I'm going to go with him. This is a Contender Series fight. I don't know why this isn't on the Contender Series. I don't know why this is. I guess the Contender Series isn't going on right now, but this shouldn't be in the UFC. I don't think. But yeah, I'll go with Pat. Or no, wait. Yeah, I'm going with Pat. Yeah, whatever. Next fight of the card, we've got Luana Santos versus Melissa Croden. I was pretty high on Melissa Croden coming into the UFC. I thought she might be decent. I didn't love her most recent loss to, who was that? To Jacqueline Cavalcanti, but I don't think Cavalcanti's that bad. And she's a lot bigger than Melissa Croden. And then I watched Melissa Croden's last fight, and it was against Chenaro Lisboa. It was pretty competitive. It was probably 1-1 going into the third, and then she was winning the third and got a finish with 10 seconds left. But Luana Santos kind of dominated Chenaro Lisboa, finished her with a Tapology says an Americana. I'm pretty sure it was a key lock. Is it key lock? It's the one where you're on top and you grab their arm as they're trying to block from mount, and you turn their arm out. Maybe that's an Americana. I don't know. But yeah, I think she looked better against a similar opponent, or the same opponent. And yeah, her only loss is to Casey O'Neill. I don't love that, but Casey O'Neill is pretty big for the division. So yeah, I'm going to go with Luana Santos. I think she's a better fighter. Sharaf versus Stephen Asplund. I'm going Stephen Asplund. I don't think he's good. I think he's pretty bad, actually. He's really out of shape. He lost to whoever that guy that fought Bulio a couple cards ago. It was his name, Denzel Freeman, I think, something like that. The really boring fight that opened up the card. Yeah, he got finished by him, Denzel Freeman. And he looked kind of shit in the Contender Series against a very bad opponent. Or he didn't look shit. He knocked him out in the first round, I think, right away. But it was a really bad opponent, so I don't love that win. It's just that Sharaf was signed to the UFC on a couple days' notice to fight one of the Tafas, Junior Tafa. And he looked horrible in that fight, and got finished by a really shitty fighter. I think Steven Asplund is probably as good as Junior Tafa. I know Sharaf isn't taking this on short notice, but he was never any good. So, yeah, I'm going with Asplund, even though I don't think he's good. Next fight of the card, we've got an actually good fight. We got Neil Magny versus Yaroslav Amosov. I don't know why this is on the prelims. I don't know why this is on a Apex Fight Night. Amosov is a pretty solid prospect. He was really good in Bellator. He beat Logan Storley, which is a pretty good win. Logan Storley is a good wrestler. He beat Douglas Lima, who was one of the better fighters in Bellator for a while. And then he fought Jason Jackson and got knocked out. What worries me is that Jason Jackson finished in the third round, and he is Jamaican, and Neil Magny is Haitian. So maybe the answer to Yaroslav Amosov is being from the Bahamian Sea. But I'm not that confident in that. And then also like the round 3 thing. A lot of people are saying like, oh, he finished him in round 3, and Neil Magny likes to break people over 3 rounds and finish them late, which is true. But Amosov didn't get broken and finish late. It was a competitive fight, and he got caught. Yeah, I did pick Jason Jackson that fight, by the way, so I feel like a genius for that. But then after Amosov lost that fight, he left Bellator. He went to Cage Fury, I think is CFFC, and he finished Curtis Millender, who used to be in the UFC. Used to be a pretty decent fighter. Not so much anymore. He's not very good, off his back in the jiu-jitsu positions. And Amosov finished him with the Anaconda choke. I think Amosov's a really good fighter. Like his only loss is getting caught against Jason Jackson. It was a competitive fight. He had a close fight with Logan Storley the first time around. I just think that Logan Storley and Jason Jackson are probably... Logan Storley's probably not as good as Neil Magny. He'd probably lose. But he is probably a better wrestler. And that's kind of where Amosov is good in like technical wrestling positions and technical striking positions. And that's the kind of people Neil Magny loses to. People who are dangerous and people who have good technique, especially over the distance. And this is only a 3-round fight, so I don't really see where Neil Magny wins this unless he, somehow breaks this guy over 5 rounds and finishes him later, or not 5 rounds, 3 rounds. I'm going with Amosov, probably by decision. Neil Magny's not that easy to finish. I know his last 2 losses he got finished, but that was against Carlos Prates and Michael Morales, who I didn't think Morales was a great finisher before that fight, but he's going to finish Sean Brady. And then obviously Carlos Prates finished Edwards, finished everyone he's beaten in the UFC. So I don't hate getting finished by him. So I think Amosov will probably win by decision. Maybe submission, but probably not. No, Magny doesn't really get submitted as of recently. Next fight of the card, you got Joanderson Brito versus a late notice replacement in Isaac Thomson. Who was Brito supposed to fight? I don't remember. Let me check. Melquizael Bагдasaryan, that's right. I was going to pick him in that. I'm going to pick him in this one. Isaac Thomson isn't bad. He's actually pretty good. He has a win over, I think it was the Fighting Nerd that was on the Contender Series, who won. And, one of his losses is to Shaheen Santana, who was he Egyptian or something? He was a decent prospect that lost to, what's his name? The Israeli guy on the Contender Series. What the hell was his name? I don't remember. But yeah, he lost to him, and Shaheen Santana is not very good, so I don't love a loss to him. But he is young, and he's improving. The only problem is he's taking this fight on short notice, and Joanderson Brito has pretty good weapons to deal with people who take fights on short notice. One, he's got good power in the first round, so he can catch you if you're not prepared, like if you don't have... if you're not super locked in the first round, he can catch you like he did to Andre Philly. And he's also got really good low kicks. And the thing about taking a fight on really short notice is that if you haven't fought recently and you haven't been in camp, your legs might not be conditioned to take low kicks. Like Harry Hardwick in his UFC debut took it on short notice. He checked a couple low kicks, but it didn't matter because his legs weren't conditioned, and he just got chopped down right away. The same as Junior Tafa versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Took that fight on short notice, immediately got his legs kicked out from under him. And then Joanderson Brito he has a leg kick TKO over Jack Shore. A little bit of a weird one because Jack Shore didn't quit. He didn't even get dropped or anything. He didn't get drop foot. But he kicked him in the shin so many times that his shin, the skin on it split open, and he was bleeding out of his shin. And the doctor came in to check it, and the doctor started sticking his finger in the shin hole, and then he just called the fight, which is weird. But he does have really good low kicks, and he's willing to go shin to shin, and that's like a good way to get someone to break, especially if they're not conditioned. If your legs are conditioned and theirs aren't, if you go shin to shin, they're going to quit before you, generally. And then Brito also has good work to the body, which is good for people that are taking the fight on short notice. And he has power all throughout the fight. So if in the third round, I think Thomson is winning but gassing, he could still get finished. So I like Brito to win this. Probably, I want to say like a first round leg kick TKO, but I can see him winning later too. I don't know. Thomson's not bad. He can definitely win this. He can pull an Ethan Ewing. Yeah, I think Brito's a different level. And it's on short notice. So next fight of the card, Amanda Lemos versus Gillian Robertson. I was going to pick Lemos because I thought she looked good against Tatiana Suarez. I thought she pretty clearly won that fight. She stuffed most of the takedowns. She was winning on the feet, but she didn't get the decision. But then, in my head, Tatiana Suarez, she was a really good wrestler that had only been stopped, as in, like, you know, her takedowns had been stuffed by Zhang Weili, and I was like, Zhang Weili's a really good counter wrestler, and her takedown defense is really good. And then she didn't stop a single takedown against Valentina Shevchenko, and I'm like, maybe her counter wrestling isn't that good, which makes me think that maybe Tatiana Suarez wrestling isn't that good, which makes me think that Amanda Lemos doesn't have very good takedown defense, just because she took down Tatiana, or she prevented Tatiana Suarez from taking her down. So because of that, I don't know if she's going to be able to take or stop Gillian Robertson's takedowns, which I think are a little bit better than Suarez's. And I think Robertson is a lot better from on top than Suarez. So if she gets her taken down, she can beat her up. And if Suarez is going to get the decision, I don't know why Gillian Robertson might not. So I'm going to pick her to win. Now, I do think she is a lot smaller than Suarez and maybe a little bit less strong. But what the fuck does Suarez have other than the takedown? Robertson's probably better on the feet. Maybe not, but it's probably pretty close. Yeah, I think Robertson, if she gets the takedown, she'll probably do some damage and maybe get a finish. Like, she's one of the only finishers in this division from on top. And she's definitely improving. And Amanda Lemos is pretty old, and she's lost her last fight to a similar style fighter. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Robertson. I'm a believer. She's on a 4-fight win streak, which is pretty solid. Like, she hasn't fought anyone that good. She beat Marina Rodriguez, but that was in Rodriguez's last fight, like her retirement fight. And she looked pretty washed in that fight. So maybe Lemos looked the same. She's also pretty old. So yeah, I'm going with Robertson. Next fight of the card, we've got Bobby Green versus Lance Gibson Jr. I want to see the odds in this fight. I'm kind of curious what they are because it's kind of hard to pick Bobby Green right now. He's lost his last two. It was to Mauricio Huffy and Paddy Pimblett, who are both good fighters, but he got finished pretty badly in the first round by both of them, especially Huffy. He got chinned by a wheel kick when he's already pretty chinny. Which worries me. Bobby Green's pretty chinny. Lance Gibson's got decent power. He's pretty technical. He's got good wrestling too. The thing is, Lance Gibson is taking this fight on short notice. Bobby Green has at least known he's going to be fighting for a couple weeks, and Lance Gibson is also pretty chinny. He's only lost once, and it was a finish loss where he got knocked out by Tokov, Vladimir Tokov. He's not very good. He's been like a win-one, lose-one fighter in Bellator. Or no, I think he's not in Bellator anymore. I don't know, but he's not very good. He's got a pretty ugly record. I think he's like 9-5 or something like that. And Gibson got knocked out by just like a step-back jab. It says power jab, but it wasn't a power jab. He just kind of put a jab on his chin as he was kicking, and I thought maybe he got knocked down like off balance, but he was pretty concussed, and then he immediately got finished on the ground. And if Gibson's going to be that chinny, I don't hate that Bobby Green is also pretty chinny himself. Bobby Green's a lot better at not getting hit, I think. He's fought a lot better opponents, and like a guy like Jim Miller couldn't finish him, who's got good power and he's good at landing his punches. And even, Huffy only landed like one good strike before the wheel kick, and that was like 3 minutes in the fight. So, the guy's not easy to hit. I know he's chinny, but I think he's pretty solid. He knocked out Grant Dawson in a very similar way that Lance Gibson got knocked out in his loss. And then since Lance Gibson lost that, he left Bellator, and he hasn't fought anyone good. So I don't know if he's going to be all that good. He's not at a very good gym. Bobby Green's at a much better gym. Bobby Green, like I said, he beat Jim Miller over the distance, and I think that's pretty impressive. I know Jim Miller's old, and Bobby Green's also old, but people weren't doing that to Jim Miller recently. He was on a decent run. He knocked out Nicolas Mate. He knocked out a couple other cans. So, I think Bobby Green's gonna win this by decision. I think he's gonna not get hit. He's gonna hit Gibson more than he gets hit. And I think it'll be similar to the Jim Miller fight, or maybe there'll be a scary moment at the end for Bobby Green where he gets like caught and he gets rocked and he's chicken-legged all over the place. But I think he'll survive and win. So, yeah. Next fight of the card, Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Marcus Buchecha. I'm going Nzechukwu. I don't think Martin Buday is all that good. When he got cut, people were screaming his praises, saying that he shouldn't have been cut. But Martin Buday is pretty shit. He lost to Lucas Bursky, who's horrible. Kennedy Nzechukwu wasn't very good at light heavyweight. He lost OSP in his last fight there, and OSP was like 40. Not even, I think he was like 45. He was really old and really washed, and he lost a decision to him. But at heavyweight, he's looked pretty good. He knocked out Chris Barnett, as you should. He also knocked out Lucas Bursky, as you should. And he's only been finished by Walter Walker. But I do think that, like, if you run that fight back a couple times, I think Nzechukwu wins most of the time. Walter Walker has that heel hook. And obviously, Marcus Buchecha is a good grappler. He's like an ADCC, something, which I think means something. He's got a couple of heel hook wins in MMA, but he looked really bad against Martin Buday. He gassed out really quickly. And Kennedy Nzechukwu is a light heavyweight at heart, so he's got that light heavyweight, decent grappling. He's a lot better on the feet than Martin Buday. And I think that if Buchecha can't get the takedowns, which he was barely able to get against Buday, and if he gasses out after the first round, he's going to get slept on the feet, just because Nzechukwu is not dog shit. Again, the only thing that worries me is the heel hook loss to Walter Walker. But unless it's Walter Walker, it's pretty dumb to bet on a heel hook submission, because it basically never happened. Maybe it's a new heavyweight meta, but I think Nzechukwu will probably win this fight. Stuffing the takedowns and then getting a finish on the feet. Next fight in the card, we got Morgan Charrière versus Melquizael Costa. I'm going Melquizael Costa. Pretty 50-50 on this fight too. Melquizael Costa I've been pretty high on recently. I thought he looked good in his last couple. The C-Rod fight looked good. The Julian Rosa fight, he looked like a much better fighter. The Andre Fili fight, he got a quick finish. And then he beat Shaylin Nurden-Beke by submission, which, not the craziest win. But Morgan Charrière has been win one, lose one since he's been in the UFC. But what I don't like is he looked, first of all, his wins are against Nate Landwehr, which I'll talk about in a second, and Gabriel Miranda. Gabriel Miranda is pretty shit. And then Manolo Zucchini is pretty shit too. And then he lost to Nathaniel Wood by getting outclassed over 3 rounds and getting dropped in the first. And then Chepe Mariscal, who's pretty solid. I don't hate that loss, especially with how close it was. But with his most recent fight, the Nate Landwehr fight, he was losing the first 2, he lost the first 2 rounds. And then in the third, they got really scrappy and he found a right hand and got a finish. If he didn't do that, he would have been out-techniqued and lost over the distance to Nate Landwehr, who's not very good at out-techniquing people and outlanding over the distance. Usually Nate Landwehr breaks people by getting punched in the face over and over again until they gas, and then getting a finish, or then winning the second, third round, like he did against David Onama. He doesn't really beat people technically over the distance. And Morgan Charrière, it's like if he doesn't land a big strike, he's not really having a lot of success. The Nathaniel Wood fight, he landed literally. I watched the fight probably 2 weeks ago. I don't think I could remember a single thing that Morgan Charrière did in that fight. And Melquizael Costa has been in a bunch of scraps recently, and he's looked really good in all of them. And he also has good finishing potential on the ground. And Morgan Charrière hasn't really fought any grapplers in the UFC. So I think Costa probably has the advantage on the feet and the advantage on the ground, as long as he doesn't get caught by something big on the feet, which he has before. Steve Garcia knocked him out, I think most recently. Yeah. But I think it's dumb to bet on Charrière to do that. I know he's caught, obviously he was losing to Nate Landwehr and then he caught him and he won. But I think that if you're going to lose over the distance to Nate Landwehr, you're probably going to lose over the distance on the feet to Melquizael Costa. And I think it's again dumb to bet on the worst fighter to find a finish. So I'm gonna pick Costa, probably by decision, maybe by a finish on the ground. Next fight of the card, I think this is probably the best fight on the card, at least the best fight so far. We've got Cesar Almeida versus Cezary Oleksiejczuk. We've got another fight where 2 people have basically the same name. Last week it was Ivo Aslan versus Ivo Barniewski, and that was a really good fight. So maybe this will be a good one too. But yeah, it's Cesar Almeida. He was a Glory Kicks boxer. He also fought at WGP. He fought Alex Pereira 3 times. He went 1 and 2 with him. He won the second one. Pereira won the first and third. And I rewatched those fights, and he's pretty good. He's a very similar striking style to Alex Pereira. very strong stance and orthodox, throws a lot of left hooks, throws a lot of hard outside low kicks, which I think will work well against Cezary Oleksiejczuk. Obviously, the why you'd pick against Almeida is because of the grappling. Oleksiejczuk is a pretty solid grappler. He's a well-tenured MMA fighter. He's got almost 20 fights. This will be his 20th. Cesar Almeida doesn't have an MMA background. His only loss in the UFC, his only loss in MMA, is against Roman Kopylov, where he was winning on the feet, and then Kopylov started out-grappling him. But I think I'm going to pick Almeida to win this, despite the grappling, because I think other than the Kopylov fight, he's looked really good in the grappling. And the reason why Kopylov was able to implement the grappling so well was because he was mixing in kicks really well. And I don't know if Oleksiejczuk is going to be able to do that as well. Oleksiejczuk is also really tall for the division. He's 6'3", which makes his legs pretty skinny. So those outside low kicks, I think, are going to do wonders for Almeida, especially when it comes to the grappling. You want to spring off your lead leg to get takedowns. And if his lead leg is beaten up by outside low kicks, then I think he's going to struggle to do that. So I like that matchup for Almeida. I also think he's fought a lot of taller kickboxers before. Alex Pereira is a 6'3" guy, maybe even taller, that he had a lot of success against. And Alex Pereira is a much more dangerous striker than Oleksiejczuk. Also, the guy he fought in the Contender Series, what's his name? Something Fernandez, right? Lucas Fernando. He's a pretty good prospect. He was a big favorite in that fight. He had really good grappling, and he was 6'3". He was decent on the feet, and Almeida beat him everywhere. He lost the first round, or it was a close first round, I think. No, maybe not. No, I think he won the first round. Yeah, he was beating him on the feet in the first round. In the second round, he arguably 10-8'd him by having top control the whole time and landing big ground and pound shots from stuffed takedowns. So I think Oleksiejczuk is probably better than Lucas Fernando, but I think Almeida has probably improved since that fight. That was 2.5 years ago, and he's been in the UFC since then. Almeida is pretty old. He's 37, but Alex Pereira is pretty old, and he's at the prime, or maybe not the prime, but he's had a lot of great performances against good fighters recently. So yeah, I think Almeida will win this fight on the striking, and I think he'll surprise people with his takedown defense and his ability in the grappling. So I'm gonna pick him in this fight. Oleksiejczuk I think is really good. I think this is a bad matchup for him. I think he could make a run at the rankings. He's a good grappler. He's a good striker. I don't love his competition. I thought his competition might have been better. Before I looked into him, on the Contender Series, I thought that he's on the European regional scene. There's a lot of good fighters there, but a lot of the guys he fought I don't think are all that good. He lost to Alibeg Yaroslav, which is one of the only good fighters he fought in it wasn't that competitive. He out-grappled the whole fight. So yeah, I don't think Oleksiejczuk is an amazing grappler, but I think that's kind of what it takes to beat Almeida easily, especially if you want to get a finish. Not that Kopylov is an amazing grappler, but Kopylov was a lot more well-rounded. Not more well-rounded. He just had a lot of shit that Almeida had to look out for on the feet, which allowed him to open up the grappling. And I don't know if Oleksiejczuk is going to be that good. So I'm going to go with Almeida. I think he can get a finish, but maybe not. Maybe a good decision. I don't know. I'm going to go with Almeida. But I think this will be a good fight, is what I'm trying to say. I think, I can't put words together, but you know what I mean. Next fight of the card, we got Giga Chikadze versus Kevin Vallejos. I'm going Kevin Vallejos. He's a pretty big favorite. I don't know if I agree completely with the odds. Giga Chikadze is pretty solid. Arguably beat Onama. And he's got a couple of looks that I don't mind. Kevin Vallejos used a lot of a dipping and head movement, which Chikadze has pretty decent counters for. He's got a good lead left hook. He's got a good, obviously, the gi kick, which is the switch kick to the liver. Or not even a switch kick. He switches stances, then he throws the open side kick. But he's got a lot of shit with his lead leg, too. He's got lead leg head kicks, lead leg body kicks, which are good for countering head movement like Vallejos. So I think the matchup on the feet is pretty even. I think Vallejos is a much better boxer. We saw Chikadze get beat up by Calvin Kattar with the boxing and the elbows. I think Vallejos has similar weapons on the feet, like a good jab and good stuff on the inside. But also Chikadze's way bigger. That's another thing that's in his favor. He's 5 inches taller. He's got 6 inches of reach on him. Vallejos probably is a closer to a bantamweight in size than Chikadze. But I think Vallejos' grappling is pretty solid. I I'm trying to remember what fight he used it in. Maybe his last fight. Maybe it was the Song Woo-choi fight. I don't remember. But Chikadze has horrible takedown defense. Onama was getting worked on the feet, and then anytime he shot a takedown, he got it for free instantly. And Chikadze hasn't fought a ton of grapplers, and everyone who's implemented grappling against him has had like 100% success. So I can see Vaillos doing that. Like, he's pretty low. I'm assuming Chikadze's going to kick at him a lot, and that will allow Vaillos to just pick up a leg and, run him over. And not only will that, lend to him winning rounds by just being on top the whole time, I also think that, like, when Chikadze tries to kick off and get up, it's going to put him against the cage a lot with not a lot of space to move. And I think that's where Vaillos does his best work. That's where he knocked out, what's his name? Song Woo-choi. That's where he knocked out that ginger guy he beat on the Contender Series. And yeah, I think Chikadze will put himself in the cage, be trying to stay away from the grappling, and I think that will get him finished. I don't think this is a very safe approach for Chikadze in this fight. If he's going to kick, that'll lend to him getting taken down. If he's not going to kick, that's going to lend to him getting slipped and beat up. I like the lead hook. I think he's decent in striking on the inside. Or, I'm sorry, on the outside, I guess, like in kicking range from both stances, which might be a good look against Vaillos. I just think Vaillos has a good answer for every single strategy Chikadze's going to use. So I'm going to pick him to win. And then next fight of the card, we got the main event, Brandon Royval versus Manel Kape. I'm going Manel Kape. The reason I'm going Manel Kape instead of Royval is because Royval has a lot of, it's kind of hard to explain. He basically wins by volume in every fight. Like the Moreno fight, if you just watch that fight and you weren't counting strikes or looking at the stats or anything, you'd think it was a lot closer than it was, just because Moreno was landing about as clean as Royval, but probably harder. But Royval was outlanding Moreno in that fight, like 2-1 every single round. He just uses a ton of volume, and with his size and accuracy at the division, it's a pretty decent strategy. Like the second round against Joshua Van, a lot of people scored that round for Joshua Van, but I think Royval landed like 40 more strikes than Van. Like, he doubled them up. Because he has so much volume. That's where his success lies, is just the volume. He used to do a lot more chaotic shit, like spinning elbows and lift knees and stuff like that, which I don't think would be a bad strategy in this fight. But he's gone like a lot more technical, just straight punches, 1, 2, 3s, shit like that. And he's won by volume. And the problem I had with that is that Manel Kape, when his opponent takes the fight to him, that's when he has the most success. You see in the Bruno Silva fight, actually, I'll just start with Manel Kape's bad performances. In the Ode Osborne fight, before he landed the flying knee, he landed like nothing. That fight, literally nothing happened. He got low kicked a couple times. I think he landed a couple body kicks or low kicks back. But for like a couple minutes in that fight, nothing happened. He lands a flying knee, gets the finish. The Makhachev fight, he lost that fight because nothing happened in that fight. Makhachev didn't strike with him. Makhachev didn't even really grapple with him a ton. Because of that, he didn't have a lot to counter on, and he just did nothing, and then he loses a close decision. The Pantoja fight, Pantoja did use a decent amount of volume, but he did a lot of circling and not engaging, and that's where he had the advantage in the striking. But where Manel Kape has good performances against Bruno Silva, anytime Bruno Silva started trading in the pocket, Manel Kape used head movement. He slipped it out the outside, or he'd get out of the way of Bruno Silva strikes, and then he landed a good combination and finished with a kick, or landed a good combination and finished with an uppercut and hurt Bruno Silva. And then he low kicked Bruno Silva, hit him on the cup, and then he finished him with a big combination. But it was as Bruno Silva was approaching and trying to throw. And then Almeida, kind of the same thing. Almeida was having no success in the back foot. Manel Kape was just cutting him off, chasing him down. And then anytime Almeida would throw back, Manel Kape would counter him. And that's how he won. Well, he won by eye poking him, but that's how he was winning the fight, was by countering him. And if Royval is going to try to win by volume, he's got to stay 100% clean with his defense and with his offense, while throwing an absurd amount of strikes to play that advantage, which I don't think anyone can do. I think Manel Kape hits a lot harder than a lot of these flyweights. I think he's faster than a lot of the flyweights. And whenever the fight's a scrap, whenever the opponent tries to come to him and throw a lot of volume, that's where he has the most success, and that's Royval's like number one game plan, which is why I think Kape is such a big favorite. I think this is probably Kape's best matchup at flyweight. Like, I think Joshua Van would probably beat him. Or maybe not probably beat him, but I think he'd have a better matchup. I think Tatsuro Taira would be an interesting fight because he's not very volume heavy on the feet. but his grappling, a lot of his grappling is strength-based. Kape is pretty strong and built for stopping takedowns. But yeah, I think this is a great matchup for Kape. I think he'll probably get a win, and I'm interested to see what they do with the title picture. Are they going to prefer Tereza, lost to Royval but win over Moreno, or are they going to prefer Kape's lost to Magny but win over Royval? I don't know. I think it'll depend on who's less injured. Right now, I bet it's Tereza, but if Kape knocks out Royval in the first round or something, I think he'll probably be the favorite to get a title shot. It also depends on Pantoja, whether it was a dislocated elbow or a broken elbow. But yeah, those are my picks. 30 minutes. Damn, I tried to make this one quick and it's still long. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my predictions. Follow me on Twitter. Like the video, share the video, comment. Watch my video from last week. I did a recap of the entire pay-per-view. I might start doing recaps of cards more often. Obviously, there's not going to be any fights after this one for 6 weeks, so we'll see. I'm going to do some year-end stuff, like some top fights or top whatever. I'll do some of those while we have this break. But yeah, those are my predictions for the year. I have every prediction for every fight this year, except for a couple like late notice fights. On my channel, I have a playlist called Full Card Predictions. You can watch all of them. Follow me on Twitter. I've been live tweeting every combat sports event for a while. Like the video, share the video, subscribe. I think that's all. Yeah, thank you for listening.